hearing now is Web 3. Policymakers need to understand the nature of Web 3.
Obviously, Web 3 and the smart contract layer 1 ecosystems are getting the most adoption.
I want to talk about a project specifically, FLUX.
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 FLUX. FLUX.
FLUX.
FLUX.
FLUX.
Bing, bang, boom, pow!
We've got our GPU mining portfolio, FLUX still in that top spot.
Today, I'm going to show you guys how to mine FLUX.
And guys, have you seen that like mining FLUX is crazy profitable right now?
FLUX has taken off in the last few days. As you guys can see, it has skyrocketed.
FLUX has mooned over $1. I could not believe it.
We were, like yesterday or the day before, making $7, $8, $9 more using FLUX than Ethereum. That's not a little bit of money, guys. You know, $1 or $2, you're kind of like, but $7, $8, $10, if it ever hits something like that, that's when you're kind of like, ooh, man, this is actually something you need to look into.
We are on the 11th month of running our FLUX node currently.
There's 3 tiers. You've got Cumulus, Nimbus, Stratus. They are going to be adding another node tier.
I am still cleaning house with my FLUX nodes. Right now, a Stratus node is making $2,817 per month in FLUX rewards. And each Nimbus node is making $681 per month in FLUX rewards.
It's up over 130% today. And everyone's been asking what is going on with FLUX.
Come over here, you see they have an actual ecosystem that's thriving.
FLUX dropping that Nvidia news yesterday, that Jetson, woo, that's going to be something.
The FLUX blockchain will provide on-chain governance, economics, and parallel assets for interoperability with other blockchains and DeFi access.
The purpose of supporting these parallel assets is to allow users to take advantage of all the benefits from each chain, such as higher throughput, more developed DeFi ecosystems, and much more.
FLUX runs on its native currency of the same name that uses an open source proof of work algorithm, and the team has made efforts to stay as decentralized as possible with no venture capital investors and no corporate board of directors.
With FLUX being listed on Binance and users now being able to deposit and trade FLUX tokens on the smart chain, the social volume has skyrocketed as well and put the community on notice for a potentially bright future for this token and its decentralized cloud infrastructure.
Have been talking with FLUX and they're done with some of the Zelcore. They do a number of our different programs. They run the incentivized node program so that you can run a full node and receive KDA for it. Think of them like a decentralized Amazon type of thing. And they've been very useful for KDA, and we've enjoyed working with them for the past 2 years. I mean, if we're the next settlement layer, we're the settlement layer of the future, that might make you the Amazon of the future.
Definitely a shout out to the guys at FLUX and Zelcore. We enjoyed working with them as well.
Aujourd'hui, je vais vous présenter en détail ce qu'est le projet FLUX.
Что за 10 параллельных цепочек? Имеется в виду другие сети, то есть вы добываете FLUX в сети FLUX, да?
In dieser Folge, wie versprochen, das FLUX Mining Tutorial mit allen wichtigen Infos, die ihr braucht, um hier FLUX zu minen. Viel Spaß und bis gleich.
Aquí tiene un pago mínimo a partir de los 5 FLUX minados, te van a pagar
3950 तक भी गया था हमारा hash rate 36 TI पे 41 and 38.7.
É um projeto aí que traz para a nova geração uma melhor escalabilidade e descentralização aí a respeito da tecnologia em nuvem, da infraestrutura da tecnologia em nuvem.
Good morning, Ollie. We got a black box. I don't know. There it went. So now we're good to go. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everywhere you are in the world. Man, I couldn't be more excited than I am today. But I have to tell you at the beginning of this, I've led you all here for multiple reasons. We talked about one partnership, but there'll be about 5 announcements today, and I figured I'd get it all done in one shot. So, Ollie, how the hell are you this morning? Ollie, are you on mute?
Oh, sorry about that. I was on
Yeah.
mute again. Hey, how are you doing? I'm good.
Yeah, I know. We got so much going on. Everything's so crazy right now, isn't it crazy, Ollie? I mean, we're like to the 11th hour. We were planning this stuff, So I'm really excited to roll this all out today. And we have about over 400 people in our live stream. Just a little housekeeping before we get rolling on this today. I ask that you guys go ahead and like and share this. If anyone's available to live tweet this, please take the time. And if there's something of value you're taking out of this today, please make sure you retweet it. I know there's a couple things that you guys are really going to be pretty excited about. So, Ollie, let's go ahead and throw up our first slide.
Sure, let's do it.
And we'll start to talk a little bit about one of the first reason we're here.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. So everybody that knows me knows that from the beginning of this project, the outset, that we talked about these different iterations of technology. We talked about Web 2 legacy infrastructure. We talked about, Web 1, which was the original one, which is, let's just say the static read write only. Thank you for increasing that. That's great. Now I can read it. We talked about how really these things, even today, they still are in existence to some way, shape, or form. The projects that were developed on Web 1 not all of them made the transition to Web 2. So you'll think about the Netscape Navigators of the world, the other applications that just didn't make it over, right? The AOLs and so on and so forth. But there were projects that made it from Web 2 to Web 3, and they did it in a very aggressive manner. So, like, you look at the original Google and what they did, and super simple search engine. It really was a growth model, an acquisition model, where they started to buy different projects, and they became what they are as a juggernaut in Web 2. Web 3 offers another alternative as well on top of that. So I am a firm believer, if you want to be successful in your mission in Web 3, you have to be open to the relationships in Web 2. What does that look like? So, Web 3 ultimately is a decentralized, for the people, by the people. But that doesn't mean we can't offer an olive branch or developmental processes on Web 2 to capitalize the best of both ecosystems. So, Ollie, when I go back in my time frame, 20 plus years in IT, I remember when all of our servers were on-prem. Like, that was the thing. Everything had to be on-prem. You had to have it right there. If you didn't have it there and you didn't control it, you weren't doing your job. And then along comes cloud. And you get the resistors, the folks that balk about it. They don't want where is this cloud? What is this cloud? Why is this out there? I don't know. I don't want to trust my data out there. And we know now that a vast majority of high-end infrastructure is running on a decentralized cloud, or on a centralized cloud, AWS, Azure, other products like that. That represents an opportunity, a challenge from Web 3 to be able to work with Web 2 and kind of a symbiotic relationship. So I see this world where Web 2 continues to build and really kind of hones their business model. We use the term "don't be evil again." Well, we finally have the tools to make them accountable to don't be evil again. And one of those things is we want to reach out and we want to work with logical Web 2 partners to develop infrastructure. So one of the big things that this project is pushing is Project Titan. And I need to explain why this is so important, why what we're doing today is so important. Project Titan represents not only the ability for end users to stake in a decentralized manner, but it also represents the ability for enterprise-based infrastructures to start to make a transformation from Web 2 to Web 3. So if I'm in Web 2 and I'm looking and I'm providing a service to my clients, I'm now looking at this disruptive model coming into play, and I'm trying to figure out exactly how this is going to disrupt my revenue cycle. My clients and my customers are asking for it, so on and so forth. So how do we approach this? Well, we do it in a strategic process. We look at logical, like-minded individuals in the space, which Flux is known for doing. I mean, we've done that since the beginning of the project. But I think the bigger piece is to look at logical partners that help develop the infrastructure and make it more palatable and easy for folks to not only run on Web3, but also have maybe some redundancy in Web2 and start to deploy in Web3 and start to bridge the gap. So we set out on a path, and that was to talk to the biggest of the big in the space. We wanted to figure out who we could partner with that would logically make sense for us to deploy infrastructure and also start to build a trusting relationship with Web 2. I'm not a maximalist, guys. Web 3 is the future, but it also means that we have to embrace our past, and we have to make this transition seamlessly. We have to make this transition proactively, and we need to make sure that we are ahead of the others in the space that, I mean, Chris Dixon's group raised, I don't know how many billion. And what are they looking to do? They're really just Web 2, and they're putting it over the top. So we need to work with real players in the space that really want to develop their platform. So Ollie, without further ado, let's roll our first announcement.
Perfect. So we gonna roll that video, Dan?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it.
First came steam, and it changed the world forever. Then came electricity, then the silicon chip, and nothing was ever the same. Now comes the next great step for civilization, the fourth industrial revolution, a revolution driven by data and applications, IoT and artificial intelligence, to enable amazing things like smart cities, autonomous vehicles, real-time collaboration, remote robotic surgery, automated factories, and augmented reality shopping. This is the fourth industrial revolution, and there's one company born to enable it. Lumen, the platform for next-generation business that combines adaptive networking, edge cloud, connected security, and collaboration. Welcome to the fourth industrial revolution. Welcome to Lumen, the platform for amazing things.
Damn chills, Ollie. That's amazing. So this is a big deal, guys. So why did we decide to work with Lumen? This is really 2 years in the making. We really started down the path of talking to the big players in the space about 2 years ago. Lumen stepped up to the plate and really started to they understood the value, and maybe you've often heard me talk about the meetings where we got together and they were like, yeah, they couldn't conceptually figure out how all of this was working, and then all of a sudden the light goes off, the epiphany comes to play. Why is Lumen so important for Flux? This is our first foray into bringing Web 2 into Web 3 and working together. This will be launched for the Project Titan. So essentially, we'll be doing some infrastructure build out with Lumen. Now, your maximalists out there that are saying that this has taken Flux into Web 2, that's just total horseshit. So you're going to have naysayers that always have things to say. I am a believer that this is opportunity. If you extend that olive branch and you build the platform, you'll be able to work with logical, like-minded partners who can develop in the ecosystem. So, I mean, Lumen is as big as they get. You're going to talk U.S. Fortune 200 company. They have over 500,000 fiber routes pulled all across the world. I mean, I want to say about 60% of the internet traffic is built on Lumen's infrastructure. And as you saw from the video, they're very engaged with new and emerging technologies. Disruptive technologies are creating for the betterment of all mankind. And that's why it was a perfect fit. An absolute, you have to take down the other one, Ollie.
Sorry.
No, you can put the Lumen one up, but just take down the slide. You have the slide up. There you go. Well, now it's me, but that's okay. So anyway, this was a logical, and the one thing about Lumen is we went through this process and we were talking to them. They didn't want to change Flux. They wanted to understand Flux. They wanted to work with Flux. They want to develop with Flux, and that's very unique from any other partner that we've ever had. And I would say this is probably one of the biggest. This is the biggest partnership that we've announced for Flux. We have another big one coming up here in a second, so don't get bored. But this is exactly how we start to maneuver our way into Web 2. We make individuals comfortable with that infrastructure, and they can start to migrate toward Web 3. So this is a massive partnership for us. You're going to see a lot of positive things coming out of this. First and foremost is going to be the launch of Project Titan. We can have rapid scalability. We can also work in a hybrid ecosystem where Web 2 is working with Web 3. Man, it's the best of both worlds, and I think that you'll definitely see a, no pun intended, influx of users that start to move into Web 3. Ollie, this is a big one. What do you think?
Oh yeah, 100%, Dan. I would not agree. Yeah. I would agree. I mean, I'm surprised. They are huge. I mean,
they're massive. They're massive. Yeah, they're massive. The other thing that stood out to me as I spent time talking to these guys is they understood that, let's say Amazon got that first mover advantage with AWS. There are other platforms out there that offer services similar to Amazon, but they didn't get the first mover advantage, and therefore Amazon took the majority of these VPS, cloud providing solutions. I think you're going to see companies like this that have already got a really good foundational groundwork in place that are going to want to work with Web3 to just do that port right over. So, this is the beginning of a long relationship. I think it's going to be a really good one. You can check out the announcement from Lumen. I'll post I'll post their website URL. We're also going to drop our Medium today as well, digging a little bit deeper into the relationship and exactly how this is going to play out. So pretty excited for that. So that's Lumen. So hold your questions. I see y'all in the chat there, right? So, I know you're excited, and I know you got a lot of questions about this. So we're definitely going to get to them at the end here. So let's move on. We got a lot of shit to cover, so we got to get through this quick. Okay. Next one. Let's go ahead and throw that slide up.
You want to put the presentation on?
No, the next partnership. Let's go ahead and put that one up. Well, I'm in it, so you're gonna have to move it to the side. Super psyched to everybody on here. We've never done this before, guys, so sorry. You're gonna have to minimize me or something so that you can show it.
I can able to do that here. Let's see. No, actually not. I can't. Well, that's weird. Okay.
This is sort of anticlimactic. Throw it in the slideshow and throw it up that way.
Okay, give me a second here.
Okay. Well, while he's doing that, what I'll do is I'll move one of the other announcements to the top. So we have, everybody knows about the Terra Luna debacle, right? So we had picked Terra Luna to be our asset of choice for our next parallel asset, along with Avalanche. The snapshot was taken on May the 5th. And, not long after that, the issues came out with Terra Luna. So we've spent the better part of a couple weeks ever since this all went down, really plotting and planning and thinking of what the logical next partner would be. And I'm pleased to announce today that the next parallel asset to be added instead of Terra Luna will be the Cosmos ecosystem. So the Atom. So this is a big deal. The Cosmos ecosystem continues to keep growing and developing. We believe Flux will play quite nicely into that ecosystem, and I'm really excited to see that happen. So the other big piece of that announcement, so we got Cosmos coming instead of Terra Luna, so that's good. We're working on that. The other big thing, and the question that I get all the time, is when we get our distribution. So the Avalanche distribution will happen in July. So we don't have an exact date yet. I'm thinking probably mid-July for the first distribution. We need a little bit more time with the Cosmos scenario. So because we had already built out quite a bit of infrastructure around Terra and their ecosystem. So we're going to have to reverse course and go a little bit of different direction. So I expect that to come probably in the August timeframe. So both of those assets. And then we also are announcing that we'll have another snapshot close to the end of the year. I'm thinking probably in November for another 2 assets that we will announce in the future. So this is a big deal. This is big news, guys. If you haven't looked at the Cosmos ecosystem, I think it's a fantastic choice. I think it was unanimous by pretty much all of the team when we sat and we really looked at it and talked about it. We'd like to see a proof of work project added in there someday too, Ollie. I know there's some proof of work projects out there doing some pretty unique things as well. I think you could probably see on that short list, Ergo, which fairly interested in that. I hate to say it because I can't even say it, but I can't even say it. Bitcoin Cash as well is doing some pretty amazing things on their chain, and it took me the better part of it, I would say, at least 5 months to even listen to Little Stash as he was pitching me and showing me some of these things. But I think you could definitely see some proof of work projects in the mix as well. Ollie, how are we making out with that slide? Are we able to get it up?
Yeah, let's see if I can try this one. Sure. Let's see if you guys see it.
Somebody says go, Dan. Dude, we're not even halfway there yet. So it's a long ride.
Let me do this, Dan. I think I'm having difficulties here. Let me take you off the camera for a second, and then you can.
That's fine. Yeah, just pop me off and let that up. So without further ado, the next partnership that we're going to talk about today
is, let's see,
maybe.
All right,
bro, come on. Sorry, guys. Sorry for making you wait, man. Let's just we like to mess with you a little bit here.
All right, let me see if I can do this. Hold on.
It's a proof of no. You can take it off. Do whatever you just did. You had it up and then it went away. So
can you do me a favor, Dan? Can you shut the mic off because I can't do it from here? Oh, the camera off. I'm sorry.
Shut my camera off.
Camera off. Yeah. See if you can. That works.
All right, there we go. All right. So this is a proof of useful work update. So we're excited to announce that we are partnering with the University of Applied Science in Geneva, Switzerland, to begin and develop around our proof of useful work. Proof of useful work is one of the biggest projects FLUX is undertaking. This goes without saying. We are partnering with the Western Switzerland University of Applied Science, located in Geneva, Switzerland, to help us do that research. So what does that mean? That means that we are already starting to lay the groundwork for proof of useful work, and we're already soliciting logical partners. We have a new team member, Alex, who actually went to school there and kind of pitched this to the university and universities, because these are multiple. These are plural. There's multiple ones that are going to participate with helping develop FLUX out. So the proof of useful work model. We're going to continue to keep adding logical partners to that proof of useful work model. You're going to see, some of the bigger players in the space. Nvidia is definitely one we're going to lean on. We're going to lean on AMD. We're going to lean on different projects in the space to bring these things to center. And we're going to have a very diverse group of individuals that are going to be able to keep working through this and developing it out. So I am super excited. And what I'm announcing is we are going to have a live demonstration PowerPoint presentation of our concept that we've built around proof of useful work with that institution. So that, I'm thinking probably not next week, but maybe the week after that, we'll be ready for that. So look out for that. That'll be on the radar as well. So I'm super pumped about this. I think this is as big as, if not bigger than, the Lumens, because of the fact that we have educational institutions. The greatest minds in the space are starting to realize that Web3 is a real thing, and they want to really work with us to develop out that proof of useful work model. I have said it before. I believe FLUX can be carbon negative. And people say, well, how the hell can a project that's proof of work be carbon negative? Well, there is a scientific calculation by the amount of compute resources that we apply versus the amount of need that is required. So if the need for that compute exceeds the amount of compute power, it pushes things negative. And I probably butchered that all up the way that I'm approaching it, but make sure that you attend that next meeting, and we'll get into the weeds. But yeah, I mean, this is a big deal. Proof of use work is the biggest thing we're working on in this project, hands down. And this is the first logical step to getting there. All right, next thing's up. Ollie, does it get any better than this? This is so far we've had a Lumen announcement partnership. You guys will see the mediums coming out about that today. You'll see the information coming out about what we're doing with Project Titan, and we're bridging that Web 2, Web 3 gap. That's huge, right? We announced the new parallel asset, which is going to be the Cosmos Atom ecosystem, which is that was my pick, hands down. I was super excited about that. And we've also announced about the University of Applied Science in Geneva and working with proof of useful work. Next thing up. So we are pleased to announce that Titan will move from alpha to beta within the next several weeks. And we will be, you will be able to sign up for a closed beta of Titan. Our goal is to have that probably within, let's say, the next month or so, the closed base. It's already in alpha. It's running. It's pretty amazing when you look at it. But we're going to open that up to a closed beta as well. And as soon as we're done testing, we're going to be well ahead of schedule, and we're going to roll Titan out to the masses. So now you're starting to see the linkage between why Titan and why this Lumens thing is so important, because we're going to deploy infrastructure on their network as well and bridge those gaps between Web 2 and Web 3. So that's a pretty big deal as well. Also, coming on the heels of that, within the next 2 weeks, we will be launching geolocations for Flux. This is a first of its kind. There's no one else doing this in a decentralized manner at all. You will be able to pick your geographical region where you would like to deploy your infrastructure, and you can do it right on Flux. Why is that important? Well, if you're somebody who is building a game server, or perhaps starting to dabble into blockchain gaming, hint, and they want to deploy, but they want to do it logically within geographical regions to keep the latency down, the ping time down, making sure that it meets their criteria. Geolocations are super important. The other reason why geolocations are super important is you can basically be regulatory compliant within your jurisdiction by deploying something in a geolocation. This is opt-in. The way that Flux works in a decentralized manner is if you deploy your application, it'll pick randomly 5 locations. It'll drop it anywhere in the ecosystem. With geolocations, you'll be able to specifically say, I'm in the States and I want to deploy East Coast, West Coast, and I want to make sure that I can do that. You can opt into that process, and you will be able to do those geolocations. I am going to be having Volter on to talk about geolocations and why they're so important, hopefully with our next AMA. Volter, if you're listening, I signed you up. So we're really excited for what this brings to the project. So major milestone. And right on the heels of that, we're very close to releasing our first alpha candidate around how we're going to do our nodes, as well, our storage nodes. Sorry, brain's going a million miles. There's so much in there. So there's going to be a lot of different things coming up that are really exciting, but this groundwork is super fundamental. And then the last thing I had was to talk about the parallel asset distributions. We have that coming up in July, and then we're thinking probably the Cosmos ecosystem in the August timeframe. So those are a lot of announcements. It's a lot to take in. I'm sure everybody's formulating questions now as they're sitting there listening to this. And so what I'd ask for you to do is to start to put some of those questions into the chat. We'll take everything live chat and we'll answer it via AMA. So go ahead and drop them in there and we'll start to bring them in. So Ollie, if you want to grab whoever's coming in and don't make them easy. If somebody is challenging, bring them in. I want it hard.
All right, guys, let's start posting questions. I'm going to take a look at the Discord here.
Yeah, if you find something in Discord, just grab that and bring it over.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. All right, so I think I can start getting this question. So, all right, the first question is, how Lumen will help Flux ecosystem?
Well, I'd say the biggest thing is, and we talked about this a little in the announcement, but I think it's very important for us to understand that we have to have an olive branch with Web 2. We have to have the ability to traverse both ecosystems. We also have the ability to load balance both ecosystems, and working with a like-minded partner is huge. Lumen is massive in terms of their footprint. They have thousands of developed data centers all over the world. 500,000 miles of fiber optic cables pulled. These guys are one of the biggest players in the space. And what we intend to work with them on is instead of being adversarial and competing against Lumen or other projects that are in Web 2, we think we would rather be more proactive with them. We would rather work with them. We will deploy Titan, some of Titan's infrastructure on Lumen. Matter of fact, we have infrastructure running on Lumen as we speak right this very second. That is Titan based nodes. And why is Titan so important? Well, we talk a lot about making sure that we keep our project completely decentralized. And although Lumen is a centralized provider, they are going to work with us to logically deploy Web 2 based infrastructure where Flux needs it the most. There are areas that we have deficiencies, so we can work as a hybrid model in these areas where Lumen already has a footprint, and we can deploy to make sure that this all makes sense. So the underlying reason why we really started looking at this is one of the things that concerned me with Flux was the fact that these large exchanges, you look at ETH right now, and about 80% of ETH 2.0 is going to be basically on centralized exchanges. The staking models will be on centralized exchanges. As soon as exchanges start offering to stake your cryptocurrency, it becomes very centralized, but because they're the controlling entities. So let's hypothetically say we get 2 or 3 or 4 large players in the space who all of a sudden they want to do Flux staking. We now have a large portion of Flux moving to centralized exchanges, which is exactly what we don't want. So our goal was risk mitigation. We wanted to figure out if we work with a logical partner to develop Titan out to be able to deploy it in scale quickly and iteratively, this is the way to bridge that gap. And Lumens is the folks that stepped into that role. And we're really super excited to work with them. They have a great team. I had a chance to sit with all of their leadership. They're very excited to work with us. Very respectful, man. I tell you, one of the best people I've worked with yet. And they're not scared. They're not scared to take a risk on Flux. I mean, you got to remember, these guys have shareholders, stakeholders that their whole business model is built around Web 2 and infrastructure, right? And along comes the disruptive technology of Web 3. Now, they can do what other projects have done, and they can resist us. They can talk about us. They can say that it doesn't exist, that it's not a real thing, it's pie in the sky. Or they could acknowledge the elephant in the room, the fact that it is a big deal, the fact that it's absolutely something that they want to work toward, and also be proactive with their business model. So I think that's how Lumen helps us overall.
All right, so and there are a bunch of questions in regards to the nodes. All right, let's do this one. Just a little bit. What will happen to Flux ETH when it goes POS?
Nothing. It'll just hopefully gas fees go down, but I highly doubt that's going to be the case. So I would say, we had ETH was a necessary staple that we had to put in place, but it hasn't been the most utilized of all of the I think Binance Smart Chain and Solana by far, you see a lot of movement with Flux into those ecosystems, which is really, really good. And I think if the gas fees come down on ETH, I think you could see Flux start to really surge there with DeFi and some of the things that they're doing as well. So yeah, I mean, I think that nothing really happens in terms of, popularity for the project or anything like that. I mean, I think there are other projects better than ETH, but that's just my opinion.
All right. Next question is POW implementation in Hive OS and other Linux-based mining operating system.
If Jeff K was on this, he'd be slapping himself right now, because this is absolutely something that we were looking at with proof of useful work as well. And our goal is to build proof of useful work for the ecosystem. And when I say the ecosystem, I'm not talking Flux. I'm talking the entire blockchain crypto ecosystem. So I do believe that you'll see multiple projects start to run proof of useful work once it's deployed. How do I know that that works? Well, there's been iterative processes that kind of thought about useful work, Prague POW, some of those other pieces where there's projects that gravitated toward that platform. Didn't work effectively, didn't do what it was supposed to do. But proof of useful work, I think, will fix that. And why will that fix that? Because this was not baked in a silo. We brought some of the biggest players, are bringing some of the biggest players in technology to the same table to talk about how they can do their, we can iterate to the next model. And honestly, hands down, proof of useful work is absolutely one of the most exciting things about the project. There's lots to be excited about, but that definitely for the future, it's going to be a big deal. So the answer to your question is yes, we've absolutely thought about that.
All right, next question is, will there be a new snapshot for Cosmos since the TerraSnap is not applicable?
Nope. One snapshot covered it all. So if you had your assets in there, you're good to go. You're golden. So, there will be another snapshot in the fall time, specifically for the next two assets that'll be added. But, you don't have to do anything but sit back and wait for the release. So that's good news there.
All right, next question is, any plans to improve the support? It takes days to get an answer.
Well, that's a double-edged sword because we've become very popular very quick. We have, I want to say 6 full-time people working on support desk. And I know that it does take time to get answers. I would say this, before anything else, Flux is a community-based project. And we all did this before we had a support desk. We went out, we asked questions, we got involved with the community, we helped each other. And, the support desk is not meant to be your, personal support model. Flux is difficult. Flux is hard. The individuals that are in here tuning up nodes and running infrastructure, these guys have invested a lot of time and resources in educating themselves. So I would say, overall, I don't see that improving dramatically. I would say, be your own advocate, go out and ask the questions, come into Discord, get involved with us and get support that way. Otherwise, 2 days is probably about your standard, I would say.
All right, next question is, will proof of useful work run on GPUs or on a node in the start?
What if I said they would run on both? That's the plan. I think that there's the ability. So, nodes essentially are providing compute resources to our enterprise side of the world. But let's hypothetically say somebody had a few GPUs plugged into them as well, and it could tap into that resources. I think you can see, I definitely think you can see utilization on both sides. And not only that, we haven't talked about Project Cirrus, which is going to be basically an off-chain solution for anyone to participate with a very low lockup to create evergreen technology. So whether you're running a Jetson or a Pi or perhaps an FPGA on the off-chain solution, this is all areas where we're going to really cultivate it, and we're really going to pull in as much compute resources as we can.
All right, next question is, what happened to the game changer announcement about Nvidia?
So, Nvidia is a Web 2 based infrastructure. I've answered this question no less than 500 times, but I'll do it again for you just because your picture is cool and I like it. Essentially, we only wanted one thing from Nvidia. Nvidia has not necessarily been friendly with crypto miners in the past. We really wanted the ability to work with them on their Jetson deployments and also proof of useful work. So, people say, well, what did we get out of the deal? We've got resources that were valuable resources that we would have spent a lot of time trying to figure out and develop around it. But now we have a straight gateway to be able to ask the folks that, know exactly what's going on. So you could definitely see AMD being in that same situation. So I think we'll work, our goal is to work with Nvidia, to work with AMD, to work with these different players to make sure that we can get the components together to build out proof of use work and make it valuable, not only for Flux, but for these companies that have built their financial models around the distribution of graphics cards, right? So if they don't love cryptocurrency mining, maybe they'll love it when it's proof of use work. So it's easy to work with the folks that you like. It's very easy to work with Lumens for me. I enjoyed it. It was fantastic ride. Long time coming. Nvidia, a little bit more difficult, but valuable. And we also were put into the inception plan with about 7,000 projects all across the world that are all looking at, different ways to scale effectively, reduce cost, maybe perhaps develop in a decentralized manner, launch on Web 2 with a Web 3 component. So these are all pieces that put us right in that area. So I think it's there's a ton of value in it. Maybe it wasn't the pop and all that we intended it to be in terms of showcasing the Nvidia partnership, but in the end, we really wanted something from them, and we're getting that, and that's exactly what that's a huge benefit for the project.
All right. So next question is Lumen offering free service for Titan nodes?
Is Lumen offering free servers for Titan nodes? So essentially, as a partnership, you basically do it in both ways. There'll be much reduced cost on deployments, and they're building an infrastructure around it to allow us to be able to pick our locations where things propagate. So this is them taking a risk on us as much as it is us taking a risk on them. So this is I believe the perfect entry point for Web 2 Web 3 relationship.
All right, so this next question is, Dan, please go into detail on the partnership with Lumen. Answer what's in it for me.
Well, I think I've been pretty transparent on it, and I'd say what it's in for you is you are invested in or holding or part of a community that is proactively going out to advance Web 3. We're not sitting around waiting for Web 3 to come to us. We're going out to all the large players in the space, and to do that, you need to build trusted relationships. By Lumen associating with us, they understood. They did their due diligence. This took a very, very long time for this to happen. And for us, it gives us exposure and clout to work with other projects that are in Web 2 that may already be running Web 2 infrastructure and want to start looking at Web 3. So what's in it for you is the fact that, we're really working hard to bring this thing together, and we're not going to silo ourselves. We're going to be aggressively going after new partnerships, new projects that can develop on the ecosystem.
All right, next question you might have answered as well, but just a quick one, Dan. With the partnership of the university, are there projects that students will develop, or is the partnership going to work with the university?
Both. And as a matter of fact, we have that showcased in our presentation. So I definitely think you should check it out. This was basically the brainchild of Alex, who's one of our developers. And he put together a fantastic presentation that's built directly around this. Our goal is to get this technology, FLUX, in the hands of as many people as we can humanly possible. And to do that, I think we need to go into the education sector. So, there will be a Medium article that's going to be published about this right after this meeting. So if you guys are interested in learning more about it, check out the Medium article, and we'll talk, and it talks a little bit about some of the concepts in that as well.
All right, so there are two questions. I'm just going to put it on the screen. The first one is do you have any estimate on how much will the Titan nodes increase nodes demands?
Well, because of the way that we've set the nodes up, we're gonna cap deployments of Titan nodes because we do this with pretty much every project we roll out. We do a slow rollout. We need to deploy, watch what happens, then we deploy some more, watch what happens, so on and so forth. So we're very, very, very cognitive of impacts to the ecosystem. So, we want to make sure that as we roll these Titan nodes out, that we are offsetting that with additional revenue sources for those particular platforms. So I think you'll definitely see new revenue generation models, much like we've done with the KDA Node Rewards platform, coming to that particular node class because of the fact that we are going to deploy these nodes onto those nodes. So yeah, I mean, we're going to think this thing through, guys. We're not going to cut this loose and anybody. It's all hilly-nilly here and there. I mean, everybody's just firing things off. We're gonna do it slow and methodical. We're going to think about it, and we're going to make sure that we take into account all stakeholders.
And then the second question is on the price. So, on the rewards. So, will the current nodes share the rewards with Titan nodes?
The current, yes, it will. It will be in the same reward structure. Yes.
Okay. All right. The next question is, how is Flux competing right now to its competitors like Akash?
I don't feel like there's any competition there. I mean, and maybe it's just me, and I'm not speaking negatively of it. I like the project, and anybody that's working in advancing Web3 ecosystems. I think it's important, but I don't think there's any comparison. I mean, I think Akash is completely centralized, and they're working on building out basically VPS as a service, and that's fine. I think they need to admit that. I also don't like their economic model, and I think there's a big piece of this, the dirty secret to every project out there, and that is if you can't get quick access to their economic model, and you can't understand what the investment periods and the unlocks are, and the fact what they can do to retail, I think that's a concern. So I'd like to see them successful. I think that hell, we'd even consider, if they continue to develop out and they address their glaring issues with their economic model, I could see us partnering with them somewhere down the road to advance Web3 even into a different level. Our team will work with the hard people to deal with, the projects that don't necessarily want to work with us. So, I mean, because that's how you're successful. It's not about working with folks that are like-minded and, all that. That's easy, right? Find some people that love what you do, they support your project, and they're your partners. It's hard to partner with the folks that can be challenging. So I don't see anybody out there in the space as competition to us at this point. I think what we need to do as a community, and when I say community, I'm talking the Web3 community as a whole, is to be very concerned with VCs that are raising big funds, like what Chris Stixon and Andreessen Horowitz are doing. That's a concern to me. Why is it a concern to me? Because they're selling a bag of goods that they're not actually going to be able to deliver. They are selling decentralized Web3 and a fully centralized, platform. 3 letters, ICP. So, there's some concerns there, and I think there are other projects out there that are working real hard to develop their technology. By the way, I'm not dissing ICP. I'm just pointing out that factually, Andreessen Horowitz owns 80% of that asset, and it was done as a VC move. So I'm just pointing that out.
All right, next question is, what is Project Thunder's counterpart on AWS? Trying to understand how it will work.
Yeah, there's somebody on their Mining Tactics that says we've skipped over their question 3 times. Can you find out what that is so I can answer it for him? Project Thunder's counterpart on what is Project Thunder's counterpart on AWS? Trying to understand how it works. Project Thunder is storage, so I think you probably have to look at like a major storage repository. So maybe AWS has a deep storage cloud solution that they offered. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's basically long-term storage. Project Thunder will give us the ability to have massive amounts of storage on the platform, which is going to be essential as we start to build out some of these partner projects that are deploying on the ecosystem. So if let's say Electronic Medical Records decides that they want to deploy a minimal viable project on Flux, and that's something that could definitely happen. They're going to need a lot of storage space. So we either partner with another project that's storage, Filecoin, something like that, or we do it internally, or we do both. I think you get the best of both worlds, and that's the cool thing about Flux is we don't have to pick or choose winners. We can just work with whoever is logical to fix the solution. So I think that's what you're going to see with Project Thunder. Did we get his question, Ollie?
I asked him to repost it because he has 3 questions on 3 different time frames.
All right, just grab another one then for now, and then if you post your question again.
Okay, so his first question.
You guys got to remember, there's like a gazillion questions coming through here. So if we don't get to the first time, we'll try to get you on the way back around.
All right, so let me. Okay, so there's one question that's been asked multiple times. So, any plans to increase the multi-node limit from the current 8?
No. And I'll tell you why. We want to make sure that this thing remains decentralized. Eight is around is a fairly good number to run at home. We're making a real hard push to start to incentivize people for bare metal. I would say, you probably are grateful to keep it at 8 because you're going to keep large farms out of the equation. Yes, they could get, additional IP addresses and work around it and things like that. But we're doing our hardest to make sure that that doesn't happen. And we have these massive farms that start to pop up and, starts to take rewards away from the community, rewards away from our miners, rewards away from our node owners. So I think 8 is our experiment. Could we reevaluate that someday if it's appropriate as we scale? Yeah, I think we could, but no time soon.
All right, so next question is, could you explain the partnership with Timpi, first decentralized search engine on Cadena blockchain that have the partnership with Flux?
Well, yeah, they're part of Flux Labs, and I'm super excited for Timpi. I'm super excited for Presearch. I'm super excited for KD launch. I'm if you didn't get a chance to check out the DocuShield AMA, that's another amazing one. Flux Labs is becoming a fucking juggernaut, man. Like, I am super excited with Flux Labs. We are really working with a lot of the KDA platform partners. But what you're going to see coming up is it's not going to stop at KDA. I think you're going to see some Solana projects in there. I think you're going to see other ecosystems to start to gravitate toward labs, because the value add is for them is immense. We give them the opportunity to deploy front end, back end, infrastructure, websites, you name it, and we're willing to. You have a direct connection with the team. They're able to help you, through the process. Maybe you don't understand how to Dockerize an application. Well, we have helped multiple platforms Dockerize their applications as they move forward. So I think Labs is low key, like, as my kids would say, low key, like one of the biggest unsung heroes in the Flux ecosystem, because what it's doing is having a lot of these very early on, these incubation models that are, I just talked to a platform here about 15 minutes ago that's getting ready to go through labs. I mean, it's pretty insane. I think it's a ton of value add. But Timpi is one that I like. I think what they're doing is unique. I think Presearch is another one that I absolutely love. I think their team is excellent. So, we need to live in a world where we can have multiple possibilities. And this showcases that Flux is willing to work with all of the players in the space. We're not going to pick and choose winners. It'd be easy for us to say Presearch is the one that you're going to go to, and that's the one that we're going to support. Or Timpi's the one you want to go to, and Timpi's the one we want to support. But the way that we've designed labs is we don't give a shit. We want both of you to be successful. And, right now there's, Google Chrome, and there's Windows Explorer, all these different pieces. Can there be more than one winner? Absolutely. And I think as Web3 materializes, you're going to need to see more than one.
All right, so let's see. You said you were a premier partner through, and that they would do a full-on press release. Is he talking about the Lumen today, or?
Yeah, Lumen has already done. You'll see your press release coming out very soon. So, might already be posted, and I'll have to go take a look at it. But all of our stuff is following this meeting here.
I think I saw it posted then.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question is, will there be a cooperation with Ledger in the future?
So, a lot of questions around hardware wallets. Do I want to see a hardware wallet tied to Zelcore? Absolutely. It is on their roadmap. It is something that they've been working on. And I believe it was Trezor that was already submitted. And, if Vulture was working with them directly. So it really is up to them to when they add it. You can already store Flux in, the ETH model or the Binance Smart Chain, I believe, already on Ledger today. So you just have to move over from your primary, or from the primary chain to the secondary chain to store the token. But I do think there's a ton of value to seeing Zelcore actually have some hardware wallet integration, and I'm looking forward to that.
All right, so next question is, tell us about the project Nebula's Infura Web3 analog. How is the development going?
Excellent. And as a matter of fact, I have an update coming up about that real soon. We have a Medium article that's being written right now. We actually use Zelcore as our use case to be able to cut down any type of Infura traffic from Zelcore. And it's been very successful. And we have other projects that are deploying. So people are saying, well, what does that look like? Well, it looks like what we're already doing kind of with KDA and their chain web data. So we essentially run the infrastructure, and we don't charge anything. It's part of the node incentivization program. So, ETH has already been deployed on, there's 3 types of nodes. There's their light node, which has already been deployed on Flux. There's their second one, and I don't remember the name of it, but it's basically a bigger node. And then you have the big one, which is basically the entire chain. So we have 2 of the 3 ready to rock and roll. We're going to work with all kinds of different projects. So you're going to see us develop infrastructure around, and I believe the Lumen's announcement talks about the Solana ecosystem as well, and how Solana deployed on Web 2. I think in the future, you could see Solana also deployed on Web 3. That's my goal, and I'd love, I've sent several messages and talked to the Solana team about, there is a possibility to do this. It is in front of them. And I think it would make their life a lot easier, because we could act as a wetlands for them in their high traffic times, which has, truth be told, we all know it's a challenge. So, it is what it is. Help us, let us help you make it better.
All right, so let me post that 007 mining tactics question right here. All right, is there a cap on setting up more than 8 nodes? That's the first question.
Yeah, there's a cap at 8. And again, I don't think that's going to be addressed anytime soon. I think, as we scale, when we're 5 times the number of nodes we have online now, we'll always have to be looking at how we can deploy more infrastructure. So I think that's a soft scaling tactic. You could easily see that bump to 10. We don't need it yet, but maybe we will at some point. So, that's something that we can look at in the future when it comes down the pipe.
All right, second one is, when is the Cirrus nodes being released?
So Cirrus nodes are just now, as soon as Titan goes through its alpha and beta and we start to release Titan, then you'll see us turn our attention to the Cirrus nodes. So Cirrus nodes are a little bit different because they're an off-chain mechanism. So basically the way that Cirrus nodes get rewarded and get paid is by actually providing work to projects that need compute resources, whether it's edge compute or AI or rendering or whatever it is. So it looks a little bit different. You got 5 Flux to lock up a node and then deploy, and then you're incentivized by those projects coming onto the platform and utilizing your compute resources. So I call it the world's biggest test net, because essentially for 5 Flux, you can now participate in the network. You can learn what nodes are. You can learn how they're deployed. You can learn the infrastructure behind it. You can learn all these pieces. And when you're ready, you make your step to the enterprise level and run one of the 3 enterprise nodes.
All right, so last question is, where is the Zelcore wallet username and password stored on the blockchain?
The username and password is not stored anywhere on the blockchain. Zelcore creates, when you create your username and password, very difficult and unique username, very difficult and unique password. It is combined together and hashed, and then that creates a private key. That private key and that information is only stored locally. We don't have any servers out there that hold any of your information. I would say we're the only platform in any of tech that does it this way, because we essentially want to make sure, like, when we have compliance audits or, we're talking about it, it's like, you say, what's your terms of service and what data do you store? And, you get these mile-long things if you go to Apple and you say, okay, this is all the stuff, the exposures and how we handle this. With Flux, it's like, we store no data, period. End of story. So we store with Flux or with Zelcore. So, that's a big deal. And we're not planning on changing that ever. So, that's a little bit how that works.
All right. So it says, if you are a competitor to AWS, why can't they just come and buy up all the Flux?
Well, if they did, that would be an interesting proposition, and one that we addressed very early on with our lockups. I mean, we've got, what's our circulating supply, Ollie? Guess?
440.
440 is our max cap. So let's say we're at half of that.
235 something.
235. So we got 235, locked up in nodes. Good luck, guys. You'd have to go to market and Flux would be $500 a pop. So, they definitely could do it. They could go after what's in circulation. I foresee, definitely enterprise infrastructure wanting to deploy nodes in a passive model. We have data centers out there that are just chilling, doing nothing. And now if we provide them useful work to develop on top of, I see them actually deploying infrastructure as well. So, if they want to buy it, good luck. So, it'd be good for the project. I wouldn't want, Lumens was a logical partner to work with. I wouldn't want to work with AWS because not because there is an opportunity there, but because I think they go against the ethos of the community and the project. So we have to be very careful with that, aligning ourselves or work. Do I consider them competition? I don't consider them competition. I believe that we are our own new product, and I think you'll see people use AWS and Flux. So, I think they can work together. For the person who's deploying the infrastructure can use both platforms, and it'll work better for their project.
All right. Next question is, how are you looking at rewarding the bare metal versus centralized nodes?
So there's a couple different ways we're thinking about incentivizing that. Obviously, we have to figure. We kind of have an idea how we're going to figure out how exactly that's going to happen. So that's going to come after Titan. I've said it before and I'd said it again. If you're running on a VPS and you have, let's say, 6 nodes running on a VPS, figure out how to get 3 of them down, because it's gonna pay down to you locally, deployed locally. Whether you're, deploying a Jetson or a Raspberry Pi or an old server or whatever the scenario is, as long as it passes benchmark and can be on the network, I recommend you getting over there, because the incentivization for home growth is going to go up. And, there'll be some foundational pieces in that. There'll be some fees involved in that, as we deploy infrastructure back to as infrastructure is deployed on Flux, those fees can be passively aggregated back to people that are supporting the network. So something that could happen for sure. So we consider all things.
All right, next question is from Lewis, and he says, what about allowing the community to vote for the next PA through the DAO?
No. And I'll tell you why. I mean, it just operationally, we have to be able to be nimble. So, we are the team, as we develop these things out, are privy to a lot more information. There's a litmus test that goes to every one of these parallel assets. We look at what is the most value add. We don't want to pick assets that aren't necessarily vetted and that we as a development team can build out. So we have to be the ones that kind of control that process. All we can tell you is that the community 100% is behind that input model. And matter of fact, I came into Discord multiple times and said, guys, tell me what you want to see as a PA. So there's a way for you to participate. XDAO is more for major fundamental underpinning changes of the project, is how I believe it. Now, XDAO version 2 that comes next year, that's going to look a little bit different. And it's also going to give voting rights to not only the node owners, but also our miners as well, and also our hodlers, because we want to make sure that we include everybody into the ecosystem. So there'll be more talks about that as we get closer. But, XDAO version 2 will definitely give you that much more of a voice to be able to delve into those pieces.
All right, next question is, so what are some of the target users and use cases for the Titan Stratus nodes?
I would say this: we want to make people comfortable in deploying on Web3, right? Web3 is new and scary. And let's hypothetically say you had an Airbnb that maybe wants to port part of their stuff to Web3. I think having part of it in Web2 in a Lumen-based infrastructure and part of it in Web3 in a Flux-based infrastructure, I think that's perfectly fine. And as a business leader, as an chief information officer, I always looked at redundancy. It was absolutely imperative. I needed to understand if something happens over here at Lumens, and you can change the word from Lumens to AWS and say, if AWS goes down, 60% of the internet takes a crap. That's a business challenge for me. Can I mitigate that by deploying some of that on Web 2 and some of that on Web 3? And now I have the spread. So if there's an issue and Web 2 burps, Web 3 is going to pick it up. And it's a lot less likely for Web 3 to go down because we are a blockchain-based project. We're a node-based infrastructure. If we're down, there's probably bigger problems in the world, right? So as a business leader, I see, me sitting in, doing strategic planning and looking at it, say, how can I do the best of both worlds? And this is how you do it.
All right, so let's take the last 2 questions then. Are you okay with that?
Yep, 2 questions.
All right, this question is, So what is the percentage of node usage?
Well, if you listen to the node owners, they're a lot. So we're working on Jetpack 2.0 right now, which is going to be our analytical model specifically built around real-time statistics from the node. So how many dApps are deployed, how many websites are deployed, how many, what's our node-based usage. We have to do this as we start to load balance, because load balancing is going to be a big key factor as we start to scale and mass. Right now, AWS does that. They have proprietary software that they use internally to monitor and scale that. So we have to build somewhat similar to the same thing, but in a decentralized manner. And if you don't think we can do it, we can do it. We've done it. We've done it with Zell ID and our self-sovereign ID. We've done it with, decentralized two-factor authentication. We've done it with Zelcore. We've done it with Project Nebulous and deploying. We've done it with KDA and their chain web data on there. We can build this infrastructure out the way that that needs to be, and part of that's monitoring and load balancing, and also basically picking up pain points on the network. So think of it as if you've ever been to our dashboard 2.0, Jetpack is going to bring all that analytical data in. So I would say that you're going to definitely see more about that in the future as we roll out Jetpack 2.0.
All right, last question.
Make it a good one, Ollie.
Good one? Okay. Are nodes farms a problem? What options do you have for detecting farms?
No, they're not a problem up to this point. And you go onto your dashboard and look where the distribution is, and it is this pie chart that is, a million lines all through it. It's all crazy, right? So that showcases to me that it's the decentralization and the fact that it's very distributed. I think where the issue comes into play as legacy-based technology starts to want to get a stranglehold on Web3, they are going to look for opportunities to deploy en masse. So we have to be ready for that, and we have to understand that to keep this decentralized, sometimes we have to put pieces up, like limiting 8 nodes per home, capping some things if it has to happen, to keep this thing decentralized. This is an iterative technology. A lot of this stuff has never been done before. So are we doing it right? I think 100% we're doing it right. Do we always have room for improvement? Absolutely. And we're gonna solicit input from all the key stakeholders in the space: our community, our node operators, our miners, our legacy partners that we're going to work with moving forward. That's what's going to make Web3 pop, is the ability to make people comfortable with a Web2 deployment and moving toward a Web3, much like we did with on-prem infrastructure moving to cloud-based infrastructure.
All right, I think we're done. We're good. I just want to post two feedback from the community. It's just not the question, but just want to highlight this. So Flux has allowed me to grow and dive deeper into computer science, and I can't thank all enough for that. That was one. The other one is...
Oh, that was nice. Thank you.
Yeah, Daniel and I have been talking about crypto to my family for the past 5 years. Never got it. I told them about Flux, and they finally got it. Thank you for building true value.
That's great. You got the elevator pitch down, so you were able to explain it in a way that and by the way, I would say, Block Mommy, I would say, more than likely, the way that you explained that and made it palatable to them was the comparison between Web 2 and Web 3. And, that's how I started to kind of cascade my message. If somebody says, well, what is Web 3? I said, Web 2, Google, Amazon, you understand these. This is the internet. Correct. Yes. Okay. Web 3 is the same thing, but instead of large companies being the controller, it's controlled by a community. And they get that. And it looks like something that they know. They made the transition from Web 1 to Web 2. From Web 2 to Web 3, it all makes sense. So, thanks for that feedback, and I appreciate that. And if anybody else has additional questions and we didn't get to them, I apologize. Got a lot of crap going on. I got a lot of releases to do once I get off of here. So, we really appreciate all of you. The community is why we're here. And, everybody turned out today, and I'm really excited for that. Thank you guys for being here. And I look forward to making Web3 amazing, making Flux amazing, and continue to work together as a team. So thank you, and have a good day.